Okay, so now we're looking at the basic grading criteria for all written work. And if you're starting on the home page here, this is located under the Content tab. And this pops up because it was the last thing I looked at, but sometimes it won't. But the basic grading criteria for all written work is located right here in the table of contents, okay? And I will also include the screencast that I'm making right now. Then also, you probably already noticed that this is located down here as well, okay? So be sure that you're listening to this to ensure that you're getting all the criteria points concerning grading, okay, having to do with our grading. So let's go over this really fast. So let's see, this is kind of cutting this cuts this off just slightly here. So basic grading criteria for all written work. Here's a list of grading criteria points to consider before you submit work to be graded. Be sure to carefully read and review these as often as possible. These points serve as criteria to award and reduce your score for the written work in this class. 1. Your written work must accord with the points in the readings. Your points must answer the questions, not just reword the question, okay? And so the point here is going along with points I've made in other parts of the class in terms of reading. So this is a reading-centric course, meaning that most or everything we do is based on the readings that I provide, whether that's by way of PDF. Sometimes I'll provide, well, and then also the videos I make, and sometimes I'll provide online sources or other videos as well, okay? So let's just make that change. Let's see, readings, videos, screencasts. Okay, your points must answer the question, not just reword the question. Ask for help if you do not understand. So in other words, this first one, also reread what you wrote. Make sure that you're not just rewording the question. Okay, sometimes people think that they're answering a question just by rewording it, and that's not the case. Okay. 2, ask for help, and if you ask if you do not understand, yet specify your confusion as closely as possible. It's tough to help with the plea, I'm confused. So don't write something in a state of confusion, submit it, and then complain after you get the grade that you were confused. Best time to point out when you're confused or ask about things is before you submit your writing, okay? And also specify as closely as you can whatever it is that you're confused with, okay? Also, do not wait till you get downgraded. Okay, and so that's what that point is. Let's see. We're not zooming in this class, so I want to take this out. Do not hesitate to email me via D2L if you have questions. Yes. All late work will receive a 20% penalty. That is to indicate the grade will be reduced below 80% if the criteria listed here is problematic. Always carefully read, view, utilize the provided and specified readings before you write, most importantly before you Google and or look something up. So this is kind of a rewording of 1. But the other point too that this is making is that sometimes we're studying a specific topic, let's say deontology, and students will look up deontology on Google before they go to our reading to understand what it is. We want to do the opposite. Okay, so in other words, make sure that you understand the reading before you go to Google. 5, usually we're studying a particular philosopher along with his or her philosopher. The philosopher's name must be mentioned in your writing. Your score will have points reduced if the philosopher's name is not mentioned. The philosopher's name must be also correctly spelled. So this is interesting too, because sometimes this will be clear, sometimes it will not be clear, okay? And you'll be able to tell. And this is really important for me and important for you too, because you're giving credit where credit is due, okay? And then sometimes there will not be a philosopher specified. So in that case, you don't need to mention a specific philosopher. 6, we are usually, 7, always write to the word count. Usually the problem with a written work is it's too short. When a student's written work falls below the word count, the student does not have enough room to answer the question. In other words, there's not enough of an answer. It's fine to exceed the word count provided you are sufficiently answering the question as clearly as possible and not getting sidelined into distraction, risking a score reduction. So in other words, too short is usually not the way to go, okay? I'm all right if it's going over the word count, but make sure, number 1, that you're answering the question, okay? 8, all of our examples offered in your writing. Any or all of your examples offered in your writing and in conversation must be kept to a bare minimum and not override the answer itself. If you do offer an example, it must accord to the subject matter. In other words, do not offer non-ethical examples for an ethical point. Okay. 9, you will get 0 points if plagiarism is detected via your Turnitin similarity or otherwise. Sometimes your Turnitin similarity percentage will increase if you cut and paste the assignment question into your work. This is not just a problem. This is not a problem. It is easy to detect if this is the case. And so what I'm pointing out here is that when you're working, sometimes, most often, I'll have like a series of questions, and sometimes students will cut and paste those questions into their written work, and a Turnitin similarity will catch that and report that you have, say, 30% Turnitin similarity. But the software enables me to see what you wrote to the degree that I can tell that you just simply copy and pasted those questions. And so that will be clear, okay? 10, it is all right in conversation to use the verb phrases Socrates says, Socrates talks about, Socrates speaks. However, in your writing, avoid such phrases and replace the verbs with better choices. Here is a link to Bloom's taxonomy of verbs. Whenever you're inclined to write the verbs says, talk, spoke, etc., refer to Bloom's and find a better verb to replace it. So let's click on this. Okay, and so Socrates compares, Socrates concludes. So instead of writing Socrates says, Socrates compares, Socrates concludes, Socrates interprets, Socrates recalls, Socrates employs, Socrates selects, Socrates verifies, Socrates outlines, Socrates points out, Socrates reviews, Socrates formulates, etc. Okay, so that's how you would use that. So whenever you're thinking says, turn to Bloom's taxonomy and see if there's a better verb you could replace it with, okay? 11, your answers, replies, and all written work must clearly account for each and every part of the question. No part of the question is to be left out. This is key. Okay, this is the easiest way to lose points, is if I'm looking at my question and I'm like, student didn't reply to X, Y, or Z part of that question. That's the easiest way to lose points. 12, do not rely on mere implication. Do not simply imply, hint, or suggest the answer. Write as explicitly as possible. This is one of the most common mistakes students make with their writing, with their philosophical thinking in general. So in other words, another way to put this would be something like students think, oh, well, he knows what this is. In other words, the professor knows what this is, so I don't need to explain what this is. That's actually not what you want to do. Okay. Don't do that. This is key. This is the easiest way to lose points. If I'm asking you about deontology, I want you to show how deontology works specifically in the context of the question. Okay. 13, always reread your written work out loud to yourself or to someone who will listen before you submit it. This is the best way to find typos, grammar issues, misspellings, etc. Once you read the work out loud, it becomes immediately apparent if there are technical issues with the writing. So notice that I was able to correct some mistakes earlier because I was reading it out loud. This is the best way to do this. Students don't often do this, and misspelling, grammar issues, etc. are the easiest way to lose points. 14, there could be additional criteria points not included here that apply to the specific assignment. If this is the case, you'll know ahead of time, okay? Because these aren't the only criteria points. Sometimes I have even more, okay? 14, do not quote anything from the reading unless you are specified or instructed, okay? So that's key. Sometimes students will ask me if you're writing in MLA or Chicago style or APA. Know that I'm not having you cite anything or quote anything, so you don't need to worry about that. So this is kind of cutting this off, but basically here is a percentage breakdown of how the criteria points apply to written work. Let's just do this so we could at least look at those. So here's a percentage breakdown, 100 to 90%. Excellent. Your points are clearly understandable within the context of a specific assignment as we covered. 2, basically I understand most, if not all, of your homework assignment as it's written. Most of your points are explicitly accounted for. Nothing is missing or very few things are missing, which means there could be things missing, which would take you from 100 to 90. Okay. So sometimes things are missing, but they're still really damn good. So I will give you above at 90. 3, sharp grammar, minor spelling issues. So you could make spelling issues, but not too much. Okay, excuse me, spelling mistakes, but not too much. Okay, 90 to 80%, good, yet there are missing connections and or negations. You got the assignment in large part, yet a few of the philosophical points and terminology are not lining up. You could be getting half of it right, and the other parts are opaque, bizarre, problematic, contradictory, quasi-rational, etc. 4 here is where there might be grammatical and or spelling issues that obscure your points. Okay, so when you haven't reread and you're making points that obscure what it is that I'm asking you for, that's an easy way to lose points. 80 to 70%, good basic effort, yet I cannot understand the connections and or negations. Part of the assignment is missing or not lining up. The written work has grammatical and spelling issues that obscure your points. 70 to 10%. Usually I do not grade homework in this range unless the writing's totally missing the points. Okay. So you could kind of think, and then 0, there's a lot of plagiarism, or also you just didn't submit the homework. And then with 80%, know that you could get 80% just simply by being late, and it could take your grade even lower than 80%, as I mentioned above. Easy way to kind of think of this is 90% for me is more like a B. 90 to 80% is a little more like a C, okay? 80 to 70%, that's really problematic, okay? That's a little of how I think of it. So what I'll do is I'll include the screencast. It'll be right here, okay, where you can listen to it, and be sure you listen to it 100%, okay? So thank you and have a good day. Talk to you later. Don't hesitate to ask questions.